From Concord University in Athens, West Virginia, this is Mountain Lion News.
Hello and welcome back to Concord University's Mountain Lion News. I'm Erica Garnes, and if you are looking for something to do on the campus beautiful, look no further. Here's MLN's Kiana Johnson with Campus Connection.
Welcome to Campus Connections, where you can get the scoop on what's going on around campus. Here are a few things to look into. On Thursday, February 8th, women's basketball will play at 5:30, men's at 7:30 in the main gym of the Carter Center. In light of Black History Month, Concord University will be holding several activities to celebrate. On Thursday, February 8th at 7 p.m., Martin Luther King Jr. Male Chorus, directed by Marshall Murray, will be held in the main theater of the Alexander Fine Arts Building. On Monday, February 12th at 8 p.m., the movie Selma will be shown on the subway stage located in the Student Center. On Thursday, February 22nd at 7 p.m., the play The Passing Pearl will be presented in the main theater of the Alexander Fine Arts Center. And on Thursday, February 27th at 7 p.m., a panel discussion on important social justice and diversity issues which face us today will be held in the stateroom located in the Student Center. I'm Kiana Johnson, and thank you for watching Campus Connection.
As school started back in session, the Concord men's basketball team returned to the floor, hosting Charleston and visiting UVA Wise. The Mountain Lions beat the Cavaliers 80-77 in overtime after trailing 49-39 with just over 14 minutes to play in the second half. The game before, Concord lost at home to Charleston 82-65. The game was tight early on, including a 9-all tie in the first with just over 3 minutes played in the game. From then, Charleston took the lead and never looked back, holding a 48-30 advantage at halftime. Things did improve for Concord in the second half as they cut the deficit to 10 with 14.5 left to play in the game. But that was as close as they would get as Charleston would continue to pull away and take home the win. CU was led in scoring by junior guard Tommy Bolte, who scored a game-high 26 points in a losing effort. Concord did have the advantage in rebounding 38-34 and was led in rebounding by sophomore Trey Briscoe and freshman Giles Webster, who each had 7 rebounds. Tough loss, but they played hard.
And that's really all we can ask for them, but since you did say we're coming back from the break, let me ask you, have you bought your books yet?
I have.
Okay, you're one of the lucky ones. I still have, waiting on 2. Don't tell my professors. But speaking of the bookstore, Concord Bookstore has made a few changes this spring. They affect students and faculty alike. We were able to get an interview with the assistant store manager, Ryan Lilly, about why these changes were put into place.
A good idea since it is a spring semester and it's typically smaller than the fall semester, that it would be easier to try this new program now rather than in the fall when there is a large influx of new students.
The bookstore now organizes its book selection by author rather than class. This makes it easier for students and employees alike since many books are used for multiple classes. This way, each book is in one location so there is no more confusion on whether a book is really out of stock or not. This also makes it easier for students to find their books online. The bookstore website now has the option for students to search for their textbook by putting in their student ID number. This puts their list of required textbooks in one easy-to-use format students can print out and then bring into the bookstore. Or they can simply print it out through the in-store kiosk then and there. For more information, you can go to the bookstore located on the first floor of the Student Center or check out the Concord Bookstore website. And MLN was able to interview a few students to find out just how impactful the Me Too movement has been on our campus. Have you ever heard of the Me Too movement?
Yes, I've heard about the Me Too movement on Twitter mostly.
No, I haven't heard of the Me Too movement.
No, I haven't actually.
I heard about the Me Too movement on Twitter. I saw a hashtag and I just read about it. And then, yeah, honestly on Twitter.
What is your opinion on this movement?
Well, it's a really great and progressive movement that's been started by women, especially in the workplace. It's mostly about standing up against men who've been taking advantage of women for years underneath the eye of so many And so it's just been a really great like Kickstarter to for like women's rights and stopping men from taking advantage of women in multiple situations.
That's a tough question. I have no idea.
I know a little bit about the Me Too movement. I've also tweeted Me Too. I think it's a very eye-opening hashtag. It brings together a group of people who have been through severe trauma, heartache, anything. I think the world needs to know about it. Sexual harassment is not okay, but it is very common, and I do think it needs to be addressed within the whole United States.
And that's just a prelude to what we have coming up after the break. I'm going to sit down and talk with Communication Arts and Media instructor Lindsay Akers and Concord University student Summer Smith about the controversial Me Too movement that has taken Twitter and the world by storm. Welcome back to Mountain Lion News. The Me Too movement was founded by Tarana Burke in hopes to help survivors of sexual violence find pathways to healing. The movement encompasses the idea of empowerment through empathy and was created to ensure survivors know that they are not alone in their journey. The hashtag MeToo has exploded throughout the media and has brought conversations about sexual violence into the mainstream. The global prevalence of the issue has highlighted the magnitude of the sexual harassment problem that we face in the world today and has prompted key figures such as Oprah Winfrey to speak out about their own experiences. I'm currently sitting down with Lindsay Akers to talk about the Me Too movement along with Summer Smith that has been quickly changing the way men and women are being seen around the country. First off, thank you both for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, my first question today is, how do you think the Me Too movement has affected society?
Well, I think sexual harassment is a pervasive problem, and I think that the Me Too movement helped us to see just how big of a problem it is. Over 80 countries have tweeted using the Me Too hashtag since the beginning, and in just 24 hours after the movement started, there were millions of tweets, I think around 4.5 million, and that's just in 24 hours. So the numbers say, the statistics tell us, according to Robert Wood of NPR, he did a study and he found that 37% of women reported sexual harassment in the workplace. Now, I think that number is larger, and I think the movement encourages people to tell their stories. It encourages them to tell their stories because it gives those that may not have had a voice. And I think not only has it inspired them to tell their stories, it's also promoted awareness.
I believe that it's helped society wake up to what's going on in the world behind closed doors, in the workforce, and a lot more people are coming forward. More women are coming forward because they feel like they have someone there for them that they've never had before, because in society we've deemed it as taboo, and we've always tried to shut people in that has been through it. And my thing is I hope men will start coming forward using this hashtag, because men go through it just as much as women. But men have to be the tougher sex, and they can't open up, and they have to hide behind masculinity. And a lot of times that's not the case. They've been through it, and women aren't just the only ones.
I definitely agree with that, but how do you two think that the Me Too movement might affect somebody who hasn't actually dealt with any sexual harassment in the past before?
I think it allows them to think about their workplaces and how they can take action with regard to workplace policies and things of that nature. And the movement also helps them to see that a lot of people who they work with every day have dealt with sexual harassment, and people even in their families, their sisters, their mothers, aunts, uncles. That's right, let's include them in. And I think that it started as a social campaign, but it's my hope that it moves to social change. And like she mentioned, I hope that it encourages men to speak up too. In fact, there's a new hashtag that is hashtag I will speak up for men. So I think that hopefully folks will begin to see the big picture, and that it's not just women, it's men also. And we'll start to see more workplace policies that encourage people to speak up and that don't encourage them to sit down and be quiet.
It reminds me of the ice bucket challenge kind of thing. People who didn't know what it was, as soon as they seen it, they like, I want to know what it is. And it makes people more observant in their areas, and they make them more aware. And I feel like it's kind of like bullying in that sense, that people want to observe it so they can stop it and make people feel more confident.
The ice bucket challenge. Now that was a movement that came and went and has died. The movements that stay alive are the ones that kind of evolve over time. Now, do you guys think that the hashtag Time's Up movement that we actually saw pretty prevalent at the Golden Globes, you know, everybody wore black, one of the actors from Stranger Things had a pin that said Time's Up. Do you guys think that's the next step of the Me Too movement?
I think that it is. One reason I believe that it's the next step is because they've provided a way for folks that have been victims of sexual assault to get free legal aid, and so that they can take action. And that's one way the movement has kind of evolved through the second hashtag.
The movement's opened up doors, and now America's taking it into their hands, and they're in the driver's seat. Yeah. And the thing is they're going to keep going with it. And I feel like there's going to be more hashtags about this to empower people outside that they're not alone. Even if you haven't been through it yourself, you know someone who has been through it, but they've always been afraid to tell you. It's more the fact that as a society, we've always seen it as taboo. It's time to grow up and to open those doors and not be afraid what's behind them. And it's time to stop this catcalling, because I've heard women do it to my male friends, and they get very uncomfortable and they scoot closer because they know that if I'm there or when my other female friends are there, they don't have to be rude. And men have gotten to the point where they're afraid to call out women for catcalling.
And I agree, it is not just one sex, though that is the majority, and you always try to focus on the majority before tackling the minority, but I agree in this instance, I love that we're tackling both at the same time, which I can't recall a time we've done that before. But again, thank you both for just sharing your opinions, and hopefully this will be educational. Are there any final words that you have to say?
Yes, the Time's Up movement also has done one other thing. It's tried to discourage non-disclosure agreements, which those are intended to silence victims. So I think that's another positive thing when you look at the Time's Up movement.
All right, Summer?
Don't silence your voices. Let them be heard. Let the mountains shake and the world come down.
Amen. Thank you both so much.
Welcome to another segment of Roles That Move the Soul. I'm Ben Scheffler, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the latest installment in the Star Wars universe. The Last Jedi has been the most anticipated film for the past 2 years after its predecessor, The Force Awakens, was released back in late 2015. This film picks up where the last one left off, leaving the Resistance scrambling to escape from the threat of the First Order, and Kylo Ren licking his wounds after being beaten by our main female protagonist, Rey, who is finally facing her legend, Luke Skywalker, in a desperate attempt to bring him back to the Resistance. This is a crucial aspect of the film, a Skywalker returning so that he may help defeat the First Order once and for all. As Skywalker himself says in the previews, this movie is not going to go the way you think it is. With a lot of character development, disillusionment of our favorite heroes from the original trilogy, and a twist no one's really expecting, The Last Jedi is a must-see movie. However, don't worry if you haven't had a chance to see it yet. The third installment is still 2 years away from its December 2019 release date. That's all for Roles That Move the Soul this week. Back to you, Erica.
That's all for MLN this week. I'm Erica Garnes, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.